Hey there, Crystal Clear crew, and welcome to another episode of Crystal Clear Moments. So today's guest, I am super excited to share with. This is the first guest that honestly that I reached out on LinkedIn because his post moved me. And it moved me in a lot of levels. And I just saw a lot of crystal clear moments that Kendall had experienced. And I just kind of hit him up and messaged him in LinkedIn. And he right away sent me his schedule and we linked up and we're here today. So before I will, talk to you about Kendall and give him an opportunity to share his story, which I think is right on time and meaningful and transparent. And you guys, check this out. I mean, what a handsome young man. I mean, he's just good looking. He's educated. Like he's really, we're looking at the future here. And anybody who knows me knows that I really love to esteem young professionals and young people and lift them up. So he played right into my lane with his post. So let me give you a quick background. That I'm going to actually read his post because I think that will sort of launch our conversation. So you cool with that, Kendall?
Yeah, that's all good.
All right, cool. So just got a quick bio here. Just give you a background of who he is. Kendall Camp is a product marketing manager at Microsoft for creators working on products such as Clipchamp, Designer, and Whiteboard. So he's a cum laude graduate from Morehouse College. So he has credentials. He's prepared, and he's a Black man in tech. And if nothing else, I mean, come on, ladies, that's kind of cool in itself. That's kind of sexy, a Black man in tech. So just in general, I think that he's, making a mark for himself for this 21st century, this second part of 21st century. He has an intensive and extensive experience ranging from full-time roles of internships and media technology, venture capitals with companies. He's worked for Microsoft, NBC, CNBC, Robinhood, got some dorm room fund. HBCU is sort of a passion, does a lot of things around for HBCUs and really bringing a voice and to the HBCU experience. I'm sure doing some low-key recruiting for Morehouse. You're a Morehouse man. So you're always talking about that. And we know that Morehouse is really about justice. It's about, fairness, and, they really do focus on the full man, mind, body, and soul, right? The full man. He's from Modesto, California, and he's passionate about storytelling and podcasting and educational equity outside of work. He loves sports. He loves sports and interior design. So, Kendall, you sound like you could be like one of my sons. Everything that you're talking about and what you do is what my boys talk about and what they do. So, but you're a go-getter, and that's what made me interested in you. So, so you have anything to say to the Crystal Clear crew podcasters out there?
Yeah, no, thank you so much for the introduction. I'm happy to be here. It's just a blessing that you even reached out to me about that post because, to be frank, I kind of thought about it for, I believe it was maybe months on end of like, should I post this? Will this hit right with my following or the people who were, looking at some of my posts at the time?
Yeah.
Especially being a Black man in corporate America, you're always kind of thought of like, oh, how do you, I don't want to necessarily say change yourself, but sometimes minimize your authenticity.
Yeah.
But with my hair, I frankly didn't want to do that. And I wanted to post something that was meaningful to me. And it's just so great that you reached out because of that post.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it's dynamite. I do a lot of work with organizations around diversity, equity, inclusion. And a part of inclusion is accepting people, their authentic selves. And within culture, hair is a big part of who we are. And for hundreds of years, not just recently, like 5 minutes ago, that people are starting to accept our hair and not looking at it and minimizing us for it. So your post. So let me go ahead and read the post and then we're going to have some conversation. Wearing my hair in its natural state in corporate America has always been a struggle for me. Growing up, I was expected to cut my hair to be successful in corporate America. It wasn't until my senior year while attending Morehouse College that my perspective changed. I was on my way to the Russell Innovation Center for Entrepreneurs for an event for one of my classes, along with two friends who were also going with me to start their careers at Fortune 500 companies post-grad. In the elevator, we had a conversation with an older Black man who also happened to be a coach of a youth football team in Atlanta. He was impressed by our backgrounds and where our futures were going. Although I was the only one of my friend group with long hair, the man advocated for me not to cut my hair because it was signal to young Black kids like the ones he coached that you could be your authentic selves in whatever path that you choose outside of playing sports. The reality is that many young Black males grow up aspiring to be athletes or entertainers because that is what media portrays. And they don't see the other people in the other industries who look like them or share a similar identity. Too often, we tell kids they must change their identity to succeed in their careers. This sways many children from specific career paths due to the misconceptions of what a person should look like to be successful in a given field. Hair is a major identity of how people express themselves. Yes. That even during my times in undergrad has been one of the main reasons I decided not to cut my hair. I use it as a message that other young Black men that don't have to assimilate and take away things to make them unique when navigating through corporate America. I just love that, how you were able to open up and be honest and be authentic and share your story. So tell me, Kendall, what was your crystal clear moment when you said, I'm growing my hair out? You said, I'm no longer going to go and get that fade. I'm no longer going to, do my waves, wear my cap. When did you say this is the moment?
Yeah. To be frank, it was kind of something that I probably thought about for months or maybe even years during undergrad.
Yeah.
I remember during my time in school, one of the things about Morehouse College, it's a great institution. They really try to teach you what are the best way to be either great in corporate America or go run your own business. And two paths that a lot of students typically go down to do that is they go down the investment banking route or they do management consulting, which are great fields and something that I was, aspiring or passionate about. I thought like, okay, maybe I can do this, post grad. But I found both of those paths a bit limiting as far as how they view diversity and inclusion, as far as how a Black man should present themselves. I would talk to people who are in the field and they would say, hey, you might have to cut your hair to, assimilate for X, Y, Z. And I was like, okay, I would hear them out, but I would say, hey, I still want to be my authentic self. And honestly, that kind of pivoted me into being in what I do today and working in technology, or I've done some stuff in media to where I feel like I can really kind of storytell and be my own self. If I'm just somebody else, it doesn't help my work or who I'm around day to day.
Right.
So that's kind of how I thought about it. And then, frankly, too, during the pandemic, we were all behind a screen and people really couldn't see your hair, your facial features of what you were doing. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to keep my hair the same way it was. I remember, frankly, this was fall of 2022. This is week before my first week of working in corporate America for the first time, like full time.
That's like big job. Like you're like,
yeah. And at this point, like to give context, like I went to college in a COVID time. So I did 4 to 5 internships, but they are all done remote.
Oh, wow. This
is the first time I was literally going to be in an office space.
Okay. Yeah.
And a week or two beforehand, I'm going back and forth as far as if I should cut my hair. I'm also, frankly, in a new city, so I'm trying to find a new barber at the time. Like, this is when I first
and that's a struggle in itself, right?
Yeah, like I've moved to Seattle all the way from Atlanta, Georgia, so I'm just trying to figure things out. And I said to myself, no, like let's keep it. Let's be your authentic self. What got you here is how you are now.
Right.
And don't try to change up things now just because you got in this corporate space in person. Just be your authentic self. And I'm really glad I kept my hair. And I think it's been helpful, one, not just myself and getting my own personal confidence, but also people who look up to me or people who are around me saying, hey, like, I can keep my hairstyle and still be successful in corporate America or whatever I want to pursue, just like him. So I keep that in my head all the time.
Good, good. I love the fact, Kendall, that being a young professional, young person in our country, like being authentic is either you accept that or not. I mean, I get that sense where this is who I am, this is how I'm showing up, and either you take me for who I am or this is not the space for me. Am I correct in saying that for you?
Mhm.
So when you decided, I'm going to be a corporate person, I'm going to do corporate America, step out of school as your first, job, and you're at Microsoft. So obviously they're very inclusive because you're still there and
Yes.
you got a ton of likes from your colleagues. So you got a lot of support in your post, and I noticed that. But tell me, where does this you being secure of being authentic? Where did that come from? Was it childhood? Was it an experience? Where did you capture that? Because now, everyone's saying I'm authentic, but it's beyond a saying. It's a be. It's a being. It's who you are. So where did you get that? Where did that message come from? Who gave you the okay?
Yeah, it's I think for me, frankly, it's been a journey. It's not something I just stepped into and I knew going into where I am now. Um, to give some context, I'm from Northern California,
Hmm.
raised by a family of educators. And
Hmm.
while I love my father and my mother, they're definitely a bit more on the conservative side about how I thought about my hair. Or even I remember when I was like 16, I got my ears pierced, and my dad was like, "You just do this? Like, why? Like, what are you
Right,
doing?" Et cetera. He asked starting out all these questions. I'm like, no, like, this is what I want to do.
right.
And even hair wise, he was like, okay, keep it. But like when you get older, like, are you going to cut it? And I would always say like, no, I won't. But in the back of my head, I thought I might would.
Yeah.
But then when I got to Morehouse, it was totally different because it was the first time I was around so many African Americans and Black people, but just frankly, people who are doing well for themselves or striving for so much more.
Yeah.
I frankly, just growing up in Northern California, most of my friends, we were either athletes or some aspire to be entertainers,
Right,
which
right,
are
right,
both cool careers. And I would love
right.
to be LeBron
Yeah.
James and be a little baby
Right.
for a day. But like, I think we can still be great educators. You can be great doctors, great business
Yes.
people.
Yes.
And when I got to Morehouse, I just saw that, but people were still their authentic selves and the hair that they had, the way that they talked, the way they dressed. And it helped me kind of get into my mode of like, okay, this is how Kendall's going to be his authentic self and go into what he wants to do. But I credit so much of that to being in the Atlanta University Center, being at Morehouse, being at Spelman, seeing Clark Atlanta
Yeah.
University students. Like you just see it so much day to day to where you just start embedding it into yourself.
Yes, yes, yes. I love that. And I love how you acknowledge that your family, obviously accepted you. And again, as a parent, I have young adults, I get it where, I may not like what you do, but we accept your decision because we
Mhm.
accept you and we trust your decision making, which sort of helps build your confidence about being authentic. Because all it takes is someone to say, to kind of shoot you down, and then it's almost like the struggle again, where so
Mhm.
you were encouraged. Okay, you got the earrings, and that may have been like because there was a generation where that wasn't considered acceptable in corporate America. And in all honesty, some organizations still frown upon being
Mhm.
authentic because that's a new space, right? I mean, we're not fully accepting of all difference and diversities at all levels. So here you are, you go to college and you find yourself, right? And college is
Mhm.
about finding yourself. It really is. So you find
Yeah.
yourself in college, and I get the feeling that you're like, now that I found myself, I'm not changing,
Mhm.
like because you like yourself, right? You
Yeah.
like being your authentic self. So what would you say, Kendall, to executives? So I deal with a lot of executives who are trying to grow their business, recruit young professionals, really think about, tapping into young top talent like yourself about authenticity. Like what would you say to them just as a general message to leaders? Because most organizations still struggle with full authenticity.
Yeah, no, that's a great question and something I think of day to day.
Yeah.
I mean, first off, I would say, let people be themselves. And if you see something that, whether it's their hair, the way they dress, if you have a question, try to be in a positive nature of being like, hey, like, I'm just curious of why did X, Y, Z, or I always like to say, like, give a compliment. Frankly, I think that's always good. Anybody who changes their hair, when you get a compliment, you just feel better about yourself, and that's good. But you don't have to go into like all the why, the reasons of like, why do you do this, or how about this? You know, I'm even thinking too, frankly, like I just twisted my hair. I got the 2-strand twist right now.
And I like it. It's nice.
Thank you. And I was talking to a colleague about it, and that they were generally curious, but they were just kind of wondering. They didn't know like the process of like 2-strand twists, of detangling her hair and blowing it out and making sure you wash it fully first, and how many different apps there are just to get your hair twisted or done.
Right.
Like, that's a whole other conversation for another day, like as far as the business model on that end. But some people just don't know what goes into people's kind of thoughts and what they have to do just to get their hair done. So I would tell executives, really just be open and honest and let people be them. And you sometimes don't know what's on the back end of why people make certain decisions. Even frankly, before I did my 2-strand twist, I talked to our chief communications officer, chief of staff. And she had a background in corporate America for about 20, 25 years. And I said, like, hey, like, what are your thoughts around this? And she kind of gave me the bullet of like, hey, like, you should go out and do this if you want to. And if you have somebody or people who don't, agree with that, then maybe that team or those type of people aren't for you.
Right.
So I like the authenticity of like, hey, like, go out and do what you want to do. And execs just be open and, just don't try to, minimize people as far as the decisions they make with, what they want to do with their hair or the way they dress.
Right. So I always, couple things. I had my hair cornrow, like going to the back, just kind of a straight going to the back. And I did some research and I found that cornrows, and I used to say this, Kendall, just being jokey, being a little snarky when people go, oh, I like your braids, especially outside the culture. I would go, oh yeah, this is the oldest hairstyle on the planet. And I would say that, just kind of like flip it. But then I said, let me dig into this. And I did. And I found out that it is one of the oldest hairstyles, like 500 BC, that they have on record people braiding their hair back. And so it's not a trend. So your hair twist is not a trend. Natural hair, this is not a trend. These are hairstyles that have been around for thousands of years. So when I kind of internalize that, it makes you rock it differently. Like, it is not something that it's, it is nice and cute and people of different cultures want to try it out and it's great. But again, another trendsetter, it's been around. So it is what I would say. It is true Black history, right? Like you're walking Black history and I love it. So how do you feel, or how do you deal with people who want to touch your hair? I know, right? I went there, didn't I? Who want to touch it. Yeah. How do you feel about that?
Frankly, I haven't really had it happen since I was back in high school, middle school. Thankfully, that wasn't a thing that happened to me in college. Obviously I went to HBCU, so it was kind of just understood as like, hey, like that's a no-no.
Right.
And then, thankfully my time, I guess about 2 years in corporate America, that's never been a question, a comment. Nobody has tried to say, hey, can I touch your hair? So no, I thankfully haven't had to deal with it. I think when I was younger, it frankly sucked. But also, frankly, when you're a kid or just a teenager, there's a lot of things you go through that are just very tough, and you're trying to learn things. Looking back, kids are kids, and they sometimes don't know what's right from wrong. But now I'm in a better space. I don't have to deal with those type of interactions anymore.
I know we have this thing about I think people know that touching the hair is not a good thing for us culturally. We don't like. I can't even we don't do it to each other. It's just, you just don't. Yeah. So yeah, that's not something, but it's always every now and then. Now, what's going to happen. Someone's going to, because I brought it up, Okay. You're going to go to the mall and someone's going to you're going to be like, this has not happened to me. So I don't want to jinx you with that. So, so as we wrap up, because I want to spend some more time with you. So we're going to bring you back with some just other topics. And I really want you to talk, if you're comfortable with it, maybe definitely bring you back and talk about Blacks in tech. So I think that's a conversation that, my Crystal Clear crew listeners would love to hear about it, especially from a young professional's perspective. And I want to give you voice in that lane. So how do you feel about that?
Definitely, I would love to do that.
Yeah, I love it, love it. So I think we're new friends. So, I love that. Again, I reached out, organically, you responded, and now we're chit-chatting, and I really appreciate your time. I appreciate you being open and honest and sharing your experience, and you will be back, and we'll be talking about Blacks in tech, and, we'll feature you, and you can talk to us, and you can bring some of us Gen Xers up to speed on what's happening, so we can be in the lane with you. Okay. All righty. Well, thank you so much, Kendall. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal.
You bet. Bye-bye.